Okay, let's talk about AI speed. What if the responses you get could be 10, maybe even 20 times faster than anything you've seen before? I'm not talking about a small tweak here. This is a full-on revolution in speed, something that could completely change how we interact with AI. And today, we're going to dive into the company that's making this all possible, Groq.
But before we get into the tech, let's be real for a second. We've all been there, right? You ask a chatbot a question, you fire off a prompt, and then you wait. Yeah, the technology is amazing, but there's always that little pause, that lag that just kind of reminds you that you're talking to a computer.
You know exactly what I'm talking about. You see the words just trickling out, one token at a time. And look, for a simple question, maybe that's okay. But if we're ever going to have an AI that feels truly conversational, truly instant, well, that lag is the big wall we need to break through.
And this isn't just about us being impatient, you know? This delay, what the engineers call latency, it's a massive technical problem. It's the thing holding AI back from its true potential in so many areas. So let's really dig into what this lag barrier actually means for us.
I mean, just think about it for a second. A voice assistant that takes 2 seconds to reply? That's not a conversation, it's stilted. Or imagine trying to use a live translation app with these long, awkward pauses. It just breaks the whole experience. And when you get into stuff like real-time video analysis, every single millisecond is critical. This is the exact problem Groq was created to fix, right from the very beginning.
All right, so let's talk about the solution. Let's meet the company that's trying to make that lag just disappear. See, Groq isn't just another company making AI models. Nope, they're a hardware company. They went back to the drawing board and completely rethought how the chips that run these models should work.
So here's the whole idea behind Groq, and I love this. The name actually comes from the verb to groq, which means to understand something completely and intuitively. So their whole mission is to build hardware that groks language models, and they do it with these special custom-built chips they call language processing units, or LPUs for short. Okay, this is probably the best way to understand the difference. Think about it like this. Most AI today runs on GPUs, the chips from companies like NVIDIA. A GPU is like a Ferrari. It's ridiculously powerful, super fast, but you're trying to use it to deliver packages. It can do it, but it's not what it was built for. Now, Groq's LPU, that's the purpose-built delivery truck. It's designed to do one thing, deliver those packages. And because of that, it's way, way more efficient and just plain better at the job.
So how does this delivery truck actually work? What's under the hood that makes an LPU so different from the GPUs that have been running the show for years? Well, the secret sauce is all in the architecture.
Right, so here's the key. GPUs were built for video games, for graphics. They're designed to do millions of things all at once. That's called a parallel task. But think about how a language model works. It generates one word, then the next, then the next. It's a sequential process. LPUs are built from the ground up for that specific sequential job. And by doing that, they get rid of all the bottlenecks that slow things down. And here's another really important thing to understand. There are basically 2 parts to AI. Training and inference. Training is the huge, expensive process of teaching the AI model everything it knows. That still needs tons of GPUs. But Groq doesn't do that. They focus only on inference. Inference is what happens when you actually use the model, when you ask it a question and get an answer. It's the part that you and I experience every day.
All right, let's talk numbers, because this is where it gets crazy. When you're using a typical AI model on a normal GPU, you're probably getting something like maybe 40 tokens per second. And a token is basically a word or a piece of a word. So 40 tokens per second. That's the baseline. That's what we've all come to expect.
Now, look at this. Groq is hitting over 500 tokens per second, sometimes even up to 800. Let me just say that again. We're not talking about a little 20% speed boost here. We are talking about a 10, even 20 times leap in performance. It's just on another level. And looking at this chart just makes it so obvious. I mean, it's not even a competition. When you see those 2 bars side by side, it really hits you what a massive breakthrough this is. This isn't just a faster version. It's a completely different class of performance.
Okay, so 10 times faster. That's an amazing number, but so what? What does that actually let us do? Why does it matter? Well, this incredible speed is way more than just a cool demo. It unlocks a whole new world of possibilities.
When you get rid of that lag, whole categories of apps that were just impossible before, suddenly they're on the table. We're talking voice assistants you can actually have a real conversation with, back and forth, no awkward pauses. Live translation that is genuinely live. But it's bigger than that. This kind of speed opens the door for complex AI agents that can think and act in real time. It's basically the key that unlocks the next generation of AI.
All right, so the speed is mind-blowing. You get it. But now for the practical stuff. How can you actually use this? And how does it compare to the other AI services you might already be familiar with?
So the great news, especially for any developers watching, is that Groq has made this super easy to get started with. You just sign up on their website, grab a free API key, and you can start playing with it. And here's the really smart part. Their API is compatible with the OpenAI API. That means, for a lot of projects, you can switch over to Groq Speed by literally just changing one line of code. It's that simple.
This table really lays it all out perfectly. First thing you see, that top row, speed. Groq is just in a league of its own. It's not even a contest. But then look at the models row. This is key. Groq is all about taking the best open source models, like Llama 3 or Mixtral, and running them at light speed. That's different from OpenAI or Anthropic, who use their own closed proprietary models. And the cost? It's competitive. So really, it all boils down to your use case. If speed is what you care about, there's just no one else playing in Groq's ballpark.
So let's just boil it down. When should you choose Groq? Simple. You pick Groq when speed is the most important thing, period. If you're building a voice assistant, a live chatbot, anything where an instant response is the difference between meh and wow, Groq is your answer. It's for anyone who wants to use awesome open source models but needs them to be blindingly fast. But hey, let's be fair, it's not the perfect tool for every single job. For example, if your app has to use a specific model like GPT-4, well, you'll have to go to OpenAI for that. Or maybe you're just running a background task where a few seconds of delay doesn't matter at all. In those cases, yeah, another service might make more sense. It's all about picking the right tool for what you're building. All right, so let's wrap this up. If you only remember 3 things from our chat today, let it be these. First, Groq uses special LPU chips to make AI responses 10 to 20 times faster. It's a huge leap. Second, that speed isn't just a cool stat. It unlocks totally new kinds of real-time apps that just weren't possible before. And third, it's super easy for developers to start using, giving them a way to power up their apps with the best open-source models.
So we've looked at the hardware, we've seen the incredible numbers, and we've talked about what it can do today. But the real question, the really exciting part, is what happens next. We are right at the very beginning of this. We're just starting to figure out what's possible when that lag, that delay between a question and an answer, just vanishes. So I'll leave you with this to think about. When AI becomes truly instant, what are we going to create?